What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Wait, I'm a Mom. I'm Alicia Ace West. Happy to have you all here, and especially my man, Akil Augustine.
Wait, I'm a mom?
No.
Okay, I'm a dad.
You're Wait, I'm a dad?
Yeah. The very first episode of Wait, I'm a dad?
Yeah. The first man. Well, no, I lied. Ezra came on.
Okay.
So you're the
sense.
second one, you know?
Okay.
Every few episodes, you're going to throw a dad in there just to,
Balance the scales.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hear what the dads have to say, but to be honest, moms rule everything, okay?
Yeah, this I'm learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are the ones that keep the train on the tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Much props, much respect to all the moms out there. I'm not here to deviate from that narrative because it is true. You guys carry the majority of the weight in these situations.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys don't know Akil, he is just amazing. Amazing media personality that has been doing this for so long. He does a lot with the Raptors, so that's probably how you come to know him.
Yep, that's the side of the bread that's buttered.
Yeah. And what's crazy is I reached out to you so long ago when I was a kid. Well, I wasn't really. I was early 20s.
Yeah.
And I just was like, Akil, give me advice. And he was so mean. Not really.
Wow. Was I real mean or what was it? What was the advice? Remind me.
So this was it. I was like, Akil, I'm trying to figure out what's next. I finished school in advertising. I kind of want to go to school in radio. I kind of want to work in sports, blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, this is your assignment. Go through all the careers and try to figure out ones that you think you'd be happy doing or you have the skills to do and whatever. And so I did that and I told you about them. And then you're just like, yeah, this isn't good enough.
Okay, that sounds like me. Like me. I mean, I want the best. I want the best for you, so I want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and doing your research. And it seems like you did, because look at you now, man. I'm very proud of the career that you have.
Thank you. I'm trying.
We all are, actually. That's the crazy thing about it. People probably see people on camera and think that things are a bit different than they seem.
Yeah.
Right? That camera's a tricky beast.
Yeah, because it's ever evolving. You just have to keep going. There's rarely a time where you can feel super comfortable.
Yeah. I think back in the day, and we still hold this perception, when it was, maybe 6 or 7 major television networks before the dawn of social media and the proliferation of all these different ways to communicate with the camera. Mm-hmm. The people on camera were big deals.
Yeah.
They got big checks.
Yeah.
And there was a certain amount of safety and notoriety and celebrity that came with being on camera. And I think now it's democratized, right? So you've got people from all walks of life represented, both, we're talking psychographically, demographically, we're talking financial demographics that are being represented on camera. So it's not what you think it is. Oftentimes there are people who are on camera who are making the same as your friends who are teachers and so on and so forth. They're just doing something they love, but it's definitely not like it was when I was a kid, where if you saw Lloyd Robertson or if you saw Master T or somebody, these people were getting a certain amount of pull or touches with advertisers. It's completely different now.
No, it is you can't just depend on that one source anymore.
Yep.
You have to. And if you go into a situation just depending on that one source, that one medium, if it's TV, radio, etc., print, you have to make sure you diversify your work, because I bet you any money that place is not paying you enough.
Yeah, you just look at the Screen Actors Guild strike and the actress strike and what's happened with the people who write your favorite shows. A lot of those guys can't afford to go to the premieres or groceries.
Still begging for money too. You know what I mean?
It's wild. Television and content has just become another part of our financial ecosystem, and it's not like you're a top dog financially. You're just someone who enjoys what you do in this medium.
Yeah, it's really mind-blowing.
It is, right? Because we, as kids, we grew up, we're
if
you're on TV, you're lit,
good,
you're big, you're good, it's over.
No, you just get the glamour, but without the actual funds to really support. Too. Yeah, that's a big, asterisk beside it. It's dependent on where you are. I'm sure in the States they do get paid way more, but here it's not. Back in the day, I remember when I was in radio, they were talking about, back in the day, Marilyn, Dennis, and Roger and Rick, right? It was Marilyn, Roger, Rick.
And Marilyn.
Yeah. They were getting paid bank.
Yeah. significant
hundreds
checks.
of thousands, like maybe even, closer to a mil type vibes for radio, for having a morning radio show.
Yeah, that's where the advertisers were.
You go in, you'll be lucky if you get 100,000, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of the credit for that has to go to Google ad shares. Google has definitely, brought a lot of advertisers and a lot of companies to their knees because the internet has completely changed the face of communication.
Yes. We could talk about this all day. We're media folks. This is what, but that's not why we're here. We're here because of parenthood. Before we get into what we're going to talk about, I have a segment called The Wind Down.
Okay. We're going to need this.
Pop a little bottle. I've never tried this. I was just going through the aisles and I was like, you know what? This is it. Castellero del Diablo.
That's how they actually pronounce it, where it's from, too.
Is it really?
No, I highly doubt that.
I was like, really? I got this?
Nah.
It's a Chardonnay from Chile or Chile. I think
okay, it's Chilean.
Say. Yeah. I don't know.
Right,
I was just going down. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Okay, shouts out to my Chileans. We're about to try one of your finest wines.
Yes.
It's a little white wine for us, right? A little Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
Shouts out to Big Sean.
Do you want a small or more?
Keep me there. Let's see. Let's see how this goes. We'll do a top up later on in the interview.
I'm always down to top up.
Okay, let's get it.
We got half a bottle back there too, if necessary.
All right. So, do you lock eyes when you cheers? Are you doing it properly? Okay, let's go. Let's get it.
Because I feel like it's bad luck,
Yeah, let's get it. Hey, do you know the history of the cheers? Mm-mm. This might be some false information, but this is what I learned.
Okay.
So back in the day.
Disclaimer.
You got to disclaim everything now, right?
Yeah, allegedly.
Media literacy. So when one, I guess, lord would go to another lord's castle, and they would share a drink, to make sure that the host wasn't poisoning his guest, they would take their mugs and they would slam their mugs together. So a little bit of the drink from the host's mug and the guest's mug will go in each other's mug. So that way, when they drink, they feel safe being in that guy's castle. Because
if you poison me, you're going to die too.
Yeah, so I should have poured some of my drink in yours.
Oh. You've seen me crack the bottle.
No, you're good.
Okay,
We're
you
good.
heard it. I would never do that to you.
Shout out to the FDA and professional corking and all that stuff that protects us today.
That's freaking hilarious. But that does make sense, though.
Yeah, kind of. Let's hope it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll do some research. Cass will do some research about it.
Let's get it.
Okay, so with the wind down, I'm going to ask you about your week. I'm going to ask you what was the pit and what was the peak of your week.
Ooh, the pit and the peak of the week. I mean, the pit of the week was the Raptors getting blown by 30 probably to the Boston Celtics. That wasn't a good look for the brand. I'm very invested in what the Raptors do, both emotionally and financially. So I want the Raptors to do as well as possible.
I hear that. That's the same with me and the Argos. Someone's like, oh, you're a super stan.
Yeah.
I get paid by them, so obviously I'm going to go to bat with them.
Yeah, more games, more money.
Yeah.
Right? And we want those problems. So I think, but on a real level for me, the pit of my week, I think my biggest responsibility is to keep track of the narratives I have in my head. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes the same day, like yesterday, I had a really great day with my girlfriend in the morning. We had a great time. And then there are moments in the day where like you get your fears to take control of the narrative in your head. And you have a low moment worrying about the future. So I think the pit was probably when I looked too far ahead into the future, project out without really having any sense of knowing what the future actually holds for me. But the peak was probably hanging out with my girlfriend, just kicking it at home, making some breakfast, watching some TV. We were big into a couple of shows this week. I mean, my girl loves. Okay, what aren't we watching? Okay, there's this series on Netflix, Till Murder Do Us Part, about this couple, this dude from Germany and this girl from Canada who went to the States and they murdered her parents. So we watched that. That was pretty good. We were watching the morning show on Apple TV. We just finished season 3 of that one.
Okay, nice.
What else were we watching? We're watching 90 Day Fiancé and 90 Day Fiancé The Last Resort.
My mom loves that shit, okay?
Okay. Hey, listen, my girl loves it. I'm now into it. Like, it's junk TV, but shouts out to Asuelu and Kalani, one of the most dramatic couples on TV. Don't ever try to be like those two. But yeah, that's we like TV. We're TV people. We just sit back, chill on the couch, and watch a lot of.
What's that girl's name that she's like Latin American.
Which show?
She for 90 Day Fiance, she was upset about her man not paying for her weave, and then she took the money that he gave, a couple thousand, and then asked her ex-man for a couple thousand, and got her butt done.
I forget her name, but she is dramatic as hell. She's living in Michigan with her man.
Yeah, and she hates it. She's like, it's too cold.
She's from Panama, I think. Yeah, she's from Panama. Woo, man, if you are not watching 90 Day Fiance,
I don't.
Just tune in for her. She's good TV. She's quality TV. She's must see.
Yeah, I see her clips, but my mom, she watches it so much. Like her TV lives on TLC and Treehouse now because she has Nola so much of the week. But TLC to the point where Nola now starts copying that girl.
Oh no!
In that commercial.
No.
You know the commercial where she starts like yelling and she just whatever. Nola does that.
Okay,
because she sees it and she thinks it's like funny.
Okay, well then I get your concerns. Listen, but if you're having a bad day, you feel low, you don't feel your best about yourself,
just watch 90 Day Fiance,
and you're gonna feel like you're the president of the free world, honestly.
Even those like sister shows or whatever.
Oh my gosh, it's car crash TV.
Yeah, TLC's wild.
TLC, and it's
but
funny
they're going strong
because it used to be the learning channel. But you ain't learning nothing watching that channel. It's just the letters now. It's just TLC.
Yeah. They had to like scratch the mantra. All right, so then what was your peak? Oh wait, your peak was just watching. Okay,
hanging out, just hugging, cuddling on the couch,
just having a good old
cozy
time.
Yeah, I really simplified, my downtime.
Yeah.
So not so much going out, wilding, partying. King Street won't see me no more.
King Street won't see a lot of us no more, like for multiple reasons.
Back in my day, it was Richmond.
Yeah.
That's where the joint was. You know what I'm saying? Circa.
Yeah. I've never been to Circa.
No?
No.
I remember the first time I went to Circa was Caravan Weekend, the Lil Jon party.
Oh my gosh.
It was like a different rapper, like Hot 97 was there, Lil Jon was there.
Hot 97 party around
Yeah, the Hot 97 party, they had every Caravan. That was like my heyday. I'm retired now. My jersey's up somewhere. At Joker nightclub.
What? Joker nightclub?
I was a bar back at Joker nightclub for like 2 years.
I have never heard. We have like a little age.
Yeah, there's a little age gap.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really didn't start going out. Like I never did the before I'm 19 vibe. I just went when I did turn 19.
Good on you.
And then on top of that, I didn't really start partying until I was like 21.
Okay, so you didn't go to System Sound Bar or nothing like that?
No, I
didn't.
Good
for you, man. Good for you. That's good.
So there's a lot of like historic ones that I've never been to.
Okay, that's good. Stay out the scene.
Yeah, it's over with. That was my past life. So for me, my pit was just navigating being back at work.
Yeah.
And having to be in office 4 days a week. And not having
heavy eye roll. No more remote.
Yeah, no. 4 freaking days. And just like not being able to be around Nola, that really does bother me, and I haven't been able to adjust. But also like my job's okay, but it's not what I love. It's not what I originally had planned. And more recently I've been thinking about how so much stuff has changed, and it was like I was on flow and I was on the radio and doing my ultimate goal, like not ultimate, but like that was a major goal for me, you know?
Yep.
And I achieved that. And then I got let go and COVID happened, and then I was restricted. I wasn't able to go to the States. I thought I was going to go back to the States, get another job on radio, and then we off, baby, like real stardom.
Yeah.
And that just didn't happen. And
you had to pivot.
Yeah. I ended up going to like my current job because they reached out to me and it paid way better than radio. And it was like, you don't have a job. You don't know when you're going to be able to leave the country. Or
you got to do what you got to do, especially when you got little ones.
Yeah, well, at the time, I didn't have a little one. It was 2020. So it was before. But then it's like, okay, and then I am pregnant. And it's like, okay, cool. It's paying me. I get to have some savings because I'm going to have to go on mat leave. And maternity leave, the pay is just not it. That's a whole...
Just be thankful you were in the States.
Yeah, I know. I would have had to go back to work within 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's wild. That's insane.
It would have been so fucked up because I was not ready even after a year and a half.
Yeah.
Even now, I wish I was kind of like at home.
Yeah. I could identify with what you went through simply because I think as people in media, it's a double-edged sword in that you get that inflated sense of self and those ego hits from being a public person. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you are removed from those situations, because you've invested so much of your sense of self in being in that position and being somewhat of an authority on topics and having people turn to you. The camera, some people say the camera adds 10 pounds, but the camera adds weight in different ways too.
Yeah.
Right? It adds adds weight in the ways of, you feel like your opinion matters a lot more than it does if you were just the average person who no one could really hear from on a day-to-day basis, right? You feel like you hold this role in other people's lives. And when that's taken away, you lose something. And it's hard to replace that. And I think this is something we see with actors who are, past their prime, with influencers nowadays who kind of spiral out of control when the algorithm stops supporting their type of content, with FusiTube and guys like that, with ex-ball players, athletes who struggle with the transition from being an athlete to, a civilian. And it's just really weird how it affects us all differently individually. And it's like, what do you have that grounds you in reality? And luckily you're a parent now, and so you probably utilize that a lot. But yeah, I can identify completely with what you're dealing with.
I feel like everybody has to go through it, at least once. And if I get back on that path, then amazing. But I do think that I was able to pivot and still make it work for me,
Yeah.
Because like full-time job aside, everything else, like the multiple hostings for sports teams. I have 2 sports teams under my belt. I have the Extra Gravy podcast. I have now, I'm a mom.
How do you do it all? Jeez.
I'm low-key really tired. I'm tired. I came here today, just dragging my feet. Like, you can get through this, There's going to be...
epitome of the grind.
There's going to be an end. I'm not going to have to keep going. You know, I will have a break, but then I say that and it happens. And then all of a sudden it picks back up again.
Yeah.
Which I'm grateful for, because I think that if I didn't have anything at all, it would be so hard. Way more harder than me just trying to push through and get through it all. Because a lot of the stuff is what I do love. So I have to just be grateful for it. So when those thoughts get in my head, I have to try to figure out what the positive of it and, remind myself that I'm very grateful.
The passion projects.
Yeah.
More passion.
Yeah.
More passion. Yeah, no, I identify. I've been fortunate enough. I'm a bit spoiled, and sometimes it scares me, because I've been fortunate enough to work for the Toronto Raptors for the better part of 2 decades. It's an organization that's done really well for itself and afforded me a lot of opportunity to travel, to create content. There's a huge infrastructure, so it supports the type of content that we create. We get to utilize, top-of-the-line technologies. There are teams. We have a marketing team, an advertising team. We have a basketball team that sometimes wins championships. So
just once.
Wait, you know what? I'll take it. I can honestly say, growing up in Toronto as a basketball fan, I never thought we would win just one. So just the one alone was, 1,000 times more than I ever thought I'd see. But, super fortunate to experience working in an environment like that, and then for it to pay my bills and to be my main source of income. It's mind-blowing sometimes. You look back and you're like, this is such a fortunate position. But then comes the other side of that sword, which is like, okay, but when does the other foot drop? Boot drop?
Yeah.
Is it like this forever?
Yeah.
Right? And you get super scared, because you're like, you want to just protect and hoard this little gem that you have. But tomorrow's not promised for any of us, and you just got to keep pushing.
It's not. Anything can switch in like a drop of a dime, you know what I mean? Like, I never really thought that I was going to get fired then.
Yeah. It's humbling.
And it happened.
Yeah.
I always say, like, if you're working in radio and you never get fired, then who are you really?
Yeah, you're not really pushing the envelope. You're not really.
Because some of the greats, like Charlemagne the God,
Yep.
he's been fired multiple times, but look at him. He still has succeeded, It kind of is like it weeds out the people that aren't really made for it, right?
And what is failure anyways? What is getting fired anyways, except, learning a huge lesson, pushing the boundaries. Like, you got to break things. I mean, there's
always like another opportunity that could be coming from it that you never even thought about.
Yeah, it's the ethos of Silicon Valley. Move fast and break things, right? That's why a lot of those companies have such huge returns, is because they're willing to gamble and willing to risk. And sometimes we gotta do the same, but safety, having a bi-weekly check, it can tame a lot of us. I've suffered from both ends of the spectrum, where I've been a bit too outgoing and I've been a bit too reserved and a bit too safe. And it's finding that balance. Where do you need to sit? Where do you need to be at what time and when? And it's a tough one.
Yes. So again, media just takes over our freaking lives.
Guy.
Okay, so the peak of my week is being able to like do this, you know? Yeah. This has been an idea that I've had for a while now. And so being able to have these shoot days really means something for me. And just, you know, because like doing it at this scale and having the people around, like shout out to Tristan, shout out to Cass, like they're really great, and having them being able to support my vision, I'm so appreciative of it, and it makes my heart warm.
You got a mean team, man. You're real professional. I'm proud of you. I mean, I'm a little jealous. Like this is a good look for you, and I'm proud of you, and I hope this works out real well.
I do too. Like I really want to take over because I feel like with mom pods, parenting pods, whatever, there's not a lot of representation for us, especially specifically in Canada. There are some in the United States, but specifically in Canada, one of the biggest mom pods is two like white blonde women who have rich husbands.
And we got kids too. You could corner the market for us, right? There's plenty of money for these advertisers to spread around.
Yeah, absolutely. Black dollar spend. So brands holler at me.
Get at our girl.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start something new.
Okay.
We have never done this before. Shout out to my producer, Cass. Am I supposed to split it evenly or? Okay, what? Okay.
All right. Clue me in here.
Sure?
What am I doing?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
All right. Public school or what?
Okay. Yeah. I decided to not just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this game is called Yo Mama.
Okay.
And on these cards, we have a bunch of moms that were from like TV shows that are pretty like historic. What we're going to do is kind of play a game of Guess Who.
Okay.
We have to all describe somebody to you, and you have to try to guess who they are, and vice versa. And we have a couple minutes. 3-minute timer.
Who goes first?
You can go first because I'm trying to think.
Okay, here we go. You count me down?
Yes, go.
All right, really close with their daughters, small town couple.
Fuck. It was filmed here in Canada, not too far.
Well, they're
Gilmore Girls.
Boom.
Yeah!
Okay, there you go. All right.
Do we do it one person or switch? Okay. What if I don't know this person for real? Like, okay. Because I know, but I don't know. Okay, this mom is absolutely historic. J. Cole has mentioned her in a song. No. She is
Vivian Smith.
No.
Vivian Banks.
No, she's married to a doctor. I think she was
Claire Huxtable.
Yeah.
Okay. Al.
Bundy Show, whatever it's called. That's what is it?
What's the mom's name?
Oh, frig. Peggy.
Boom. All right, there we go.
This one has a husband that works in the plant.
Marge Simpson.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Everybody loves this guy.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Who's the wife? Who's the mom?
Fuck, I don't know her name. I don't think I know her name. That's fine. Okay.
All right, your turn.
I'm pretty sure. Is this what I'm thinking? They are a group of women, older women. Yeah, older women.
Older women. So,
and
Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, like
Dolores.
Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia. Okay,
Sophia. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Philip Banks.
Vivian Banks.
Boom.
It's another cartoon.
Lois from Family Guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's so good. You really are a freaking.
This one sang the national anthem, and it was one of the worst national anthems I've ever recorded.
Fergie?
Nope. She came back to her show. It was canceled. She came back, and she got canceled again.
Roxanne?
Close. Not Roxanne, but...
Roseanne.
Yeah. There, boom.
Okay, I have one more, but oh my gosh, I don't remember what the show is. what the show is. Okay, they're white,
Oh,
older. It's an animal. It's a house animal that's opposite of a dog. Give me a hint, because I really don't know this name. I kind of have her voice in my head.
a house animal?
Any, an opposite of a doggy.
Cat? Oh, time's up. Who is it? Show me. Let me see.
Kitty Foreman.
Oh, I actually thought it meant like,
I don't know.
you could have said like, okay, all right,
That
whatever.
70s show?
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, you see, I never really watched the 70s show,
Okay,
so
that's fair.
that's why.
I actually
but
never
I'm like,
watched Gilmore Girls.
Really?
That wasn't really my bag.
like, I
But I watched all the
remember
rest.
the name, like not the name, but I remember her, and I kind of remember her voice, but I never really watched the 70s show.
If I
You
was
know?
doing that one, I would say one of the cast members was recently put in jail.
But I didn't even know that it was a 70s show.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm like, I need a clue, because I have no shoe.
Hyde. I think the character's name was Hyde. Homeboy got put in jail for
Because I would have
SA.
also said like the couple don't wash their whole bodies or shower regularly. Remember?
Who's that? Oh yeah, Ashton Kutcher and them.
And
They don't
yeah.
wash their children. That's wild. You need to get them on this show. Be like, wait, you need to wash your children.
Yeah. Shout out to Cass for printing these up and making these so freaking quick. Unless she already knew. Did you do it today? Oh, wow.
The production value
We
here,
literally
top
talked
notch.
about this last night, and I said, yeah, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, I get these like quality cards and stuff.
Okay. I'll keep
When
that in
I
mind.
say that she's a freaking best,
Yeah.
she's the best. You need
got
a
a team.
producer?
Yeah, I was gonna say
She's-
you might get poached.
I don't even know if you have a full-time job, but if you need one, she doesn't. So
All right.
anybody
well,
that needs a
noted.
producer, maybe holler at me, as long as you don't
As
take
long as she
her away
continues to
from
be
me.
available for your shoot days, you're good.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's get into the real, what is it? Meat and potatoes, they
Oh
say.
God. Here we go.
You are a new father,
Yes, I am.
which is crazy to say, because to be honest, I never knew if you'd be a dad or even wanted to.
Same here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was on the fence,
Yeah.
Like, it always seemed like a cool idea,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a big step to take. It's a lot of responsibility. I can say that I shied away from a lot of responsibility throughout most of my
Yeah.
adult life. And it happened
Mm-hmm.
in probably not the way I would have planned it to happen, but life happens like that. It's probably
Yeah.
going to be one of the biggest challenges that I'm ever confronted with. If God has a bigger one for me, tell him I don't want it.
Be like, I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good with the bag I got right now.
Maxed out,
But yeah, I became a dad February 25th of this year.
a day before Nola, but
Yeah.
a day and a year later.
Yeah.
She's February 26th.
Yeah,
And your baby's name is
Isla.
Oh no, Isla.
Isla. Some say Isla. I don't know where they're getting that from, but it's Isla.
Isla.
The S is silent,
Like
I guess.
island.
Yeah, like island,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my baby girl. That's the human being that I'm responsible for coaching up to be an adult one day. It's
Which is
a
wild.
huge responsibility. It's amazing that the universe has put me in this position.
Yeah.
And I'm scared, to be honest. But
I feel like we all are.
yeah, I'm glad because I don't want to be the only one.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I've always been, and that's what's allowed me to get into the positions I've been in terms of being a broadcaster. But I'm scared. I've never had this much responsibility put on my plate, and
You've been, ever since I've known you, you've really been like a carefree grad kind of thing,
yeah.
You just go with the flow
Yeah.
and
Can't
whatever
really do that
happens,
in this one.
happens. And you can, but you can't,
Okay,
Because it's like in the day, you never know what's going to go.
it's true.
Like you can't judge what the mood is of the child. If the child's all of a sudden going to be fucking sick and throwing up everywhere, you can't necessarily predict it. But at the same time, you can't just be like, okay, I'm just going to pick up and go. You
Yeah.
do need some type of structure, right? So it's like half and half, I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely forcing me to improve upon the
Jeez.
wow. Toronto traffic, baby.
Somebody's pissed.
But I would say that it's definitely forcing me to focus on the areas of my personality and life that I probably wouldn't have focused on as much if I was still the independent, carefree young man bachelor that I was. There are a lot of things that I needed to shore up once I became a father. There are things I'm still working on that I just can't leave to the forces of the universe, right? You really have to be responsible, present. You got to be there for the kid. And you really have to have a plan. You have to be really secure because there's another person who is
really dependent on you.
Yeah. And you got to learn to communicate.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing this alone.
Yeah.
It's in partnership. Whether you're in a relationship or you're co-parenting like myself, you've really got to learn to be able to communicate. And that's something that I'm going to have to learn to grow with as a man. And I think oftentimes when you're spoiled enough to find a rhythm and a level of comfort in the life that you're living, you kind of resent being forced to step out of that world.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the first thing that I had to deal with was, you know, the universe is asking something different of me right now, and I've got to come to terms with that. And at the end of the day, I think I'm going to live up to, you know, whatever I need to become in order to be a great dad, because that's something I didn't have. Not to disrespect my father and my mother, but they just weren't around.
Yeah, because they live in the States, right?
Well, yeah. My family immigrated to Canada illegally when I was 4 years old, so I didn't see my parents after I was 4 till I was 25. So I didn't really have the traditional childhood.
Yeah.
So.
And who were you raised by? Your sister?
Well, my sister
did a
really
part.
took care of me.
Yeah.
I was raised by an aunt, a cousin, another aunt. Jumped around a little bit. Well, there's one aunt in particular that was kind of a constant, but I can say that like my childhood, it's a one of one.
Yeah.
It wasn't what you would want for anyone. And I think that's why I was really resistant to becoming a father. My childhood was a very painful experience. And I guess everybody is the sum total of their experiences.
Yeah.
And so because my childhood was such a difficult experience for me, I don't look back on my childhood with the same fondness that a lot of people can and don't have the same memories and experiences. So becoming a father was just a big deal to me because I felt like I was failing in a sense because I too was not with the mother of my child, and I felt like I was putting them through something that I knew was a negative experience for myself.
As if you started the journey off on the wrong foot. From the jump.
Yeah.
You know?
It was loaded with all my own trauma from my past, knowing that like my parents weren't in the same city as I'm not in the same city as my daughter, and I felt like the sins of the father were visiting the child, and that I was doing the same disservice and leaving my child vulnerable to the exact same experience.
Like some generational trauma thing being passed down.
Right. And it was what I had worked so hard to not only not have happen, but to preach and teach against. And here I am, you know, making that same. And now, is it a mistake? We don't know. The story's not told. But there's a perspective and a narrative that I had built when it first happened where I've failed my firstborn already just by this being the situation that I'm in.
I understand like the thoughts that you know, would go through.
Yeah.
Like even though those weren't necessarily my thoughts, but I do have thoughts about like my mom and my dad separated when I was 2 years old, right? And then even with my mom and my sister's dad, they separated when she was 2 years old. So I'm approaching 2 years with Nola, and our situation has not been a blessed situation. It's really trying our relationship, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm destined to have that same fate as my mom, and I don't want that.
How scary is that?
I don't want it. That's all I've ever not wanted. I wanted to, you know, be able to provide my child with a 2-parent home. So part of me is like, no, you have to force it. You have to like keep going just because. But I'm also like, why do I, like, if it was to continue to go for years and years and years, why would I want to suffer?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, if both of us aren't happy or whatever, why would we want that for a child? So I'm also in the belief of it's okay to end things because it could be the better thing for your child. Nobody wants to really grow up in a home that isn't happy and cohesive and, you know, on the same page. I think it's better if you're able to acknowledge that this relationship isn't working and you guys just got to do the best that you can for your child in a co-parenting situation.
Yeah, hindsight is 2020. Like, I look at my situation, and my parents moved from Toronto to Brooklyn, New York, probably around 86, 87. And I think about if they had brought me to Brooklyn, New York, 86, 87, and what my uncles and my cousins had gone through, just, you know, with the police state that New York City was at that time, and with the disposition and personality that I had, being rather rebellious. I don't think I would have made it out of my teen years living in Brooklyn on Flatbush with my parents. And so it probably was a blessing that I didn't grow up with my parents, right? My dad ended up moving to Newark, New Jersey, one of the roughest cities in New Jersey. And when I visit my dad and when I go visit my mom and I see the situation that my little sister grew up in, because she grew up out there, I think, wow, I don't know if I would have made it. So obviously there was a blessing in that, and my parents did me a huge favor by not forcing me to grow up in New York. And so it takes a lot more effort for me to put that same lens on the relationship I have with my daughter and say, well, maybe this relationship where she is, where she's at, and I will be as involved as I can, is going to work out for the best. And she, in hindsight, when she's, you know, 20, 30 or whatever, can look back and say, well, you know what, I'm very thankful, like I am, that my parents put me in this position where I was able to, like, work for the Raptors, have an NBA championship ring, you know, have great friends, blossom in a city that's burgeoning and becoming a cultural leader on the face of the planet Earth, and have all these dope experiences. And I got that because I'm here. And so it's like, but it's super conflicting when it's your turn to be responsible.
Yeah, of course. Because you're just like, oh, am I doing right?
Yeah.
And you're just racking your mind and like, am I being selfish or, you know?
Yeah. And the ego too. Like you think about it, I'm a public person.
Yeah.
And to share this kind of stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I came here, is because like I've kept this super close to my chest. Like this isn't something I've openly talked about ever before. Right. And I think there's a certain amount of guilt and shame that comes with, you know, what you personally perceive as a failure. And I've been so open about my life, all of my life, and to have this part of my life, my daughter, and not talk about her and not share her. It's incongruent with who I've been for the better part of most of my life. So I figured, you know, if I'm going to continue to, or at least return to the person I was,
being open and honest and
then vulnerable, it's important that I involve her and her life story, because her life story is going to be my life story.
Yeah. So there's this one day I open Instagram and I'm scrolling, and then all of a sudden I see a post that Akil is welcoming a baby into his life.
Yep.
I was like,
drop a bomb on the timeline.
I was like, hold on. Because you have a girlfriend.
Yes.
And I had just seen your girlfriend a couple months prior.
Yes.
I saw her in November.
Yes.
And I was like, I know she's like thin and stuff, but I did not see any bump at all. So then I'm trying to do the math in my head, and I'm like,
the math wasn't mathing.
I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know, like,
drama.
I was like, that's exactly what it was. I'm like, this doesn't make no sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had to ask our friend Bailey, I was like, how do I
approach this?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm very confused.
I was asking everybody.
I had to confirm too,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be one of those people, because I don't know what the dynamic of your relationship, like how that ended up being when this whole thing went down. And so, one, I need to confirm that it wasn't her child, because I'm not trying to run into her and be like one of those fucking oblivious people. Like,
it's happened a bunch of times. She's been congratulated for having this baby so many times. She's played along really well. She's an amazing human being.
Yeah, she is.
I'm just baffled and humbled that, you know, that's the person I get to spend the rest of my life with. But you know, she's been through that situation, that very same situation.
But I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to know better to like put two and two together and ask the right people the appropriate questions.
And plus, you're in my circle too, so you can find out that
So I'm like, okay, Billy, like, confirm that this isn't, you know. She said, yeah. And then I'm like, okay. What you wear? That's like another thing, you know. And she was just like, yes. And I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
there was no, like, listen, I'm a very honest person, especially when it comes to my relationships. Like, I can honestly say I've never cheated. I've never lied. I've never, a lot of the things that you can accuse young men of doing, you know, everyone will say they didn't, but I can actually stand there, you know, and with a certain level of
down, being
confidence.
like, nah.
Yeah. I mean, I was very independent, and I was very open about the fact that I was a bachelor for most of my life.
Yeah.
I was not ever, you know, out there looking to get into a long-term relationship. It took me a really long time to get to the point where I felt like that was something I desired. My partner is someone who I had dated prior. And then, you know, during COVID, we had went our separate ways. And, you know, adults get together from time to time. And there was someone who I had gotten together with on a day, and things had happened. And
Crazy day of all days.
Yeah, yeah. A seed sprouted. And I think I got back with my partner. And within the first month of us being together, I had found out. And, you know, I had fully, again, I'm a very honest person. The day I found out, the day after I found out, you know, I sat her down and I told her, here's the situation, fully expecting that this wonderful young lady would be like, this is a very complex situation. And I would like to remove myself from this. And I went in there with that expectation and completely understanding that that is her right, and good on her for being able to, you know, call a spade and peace out when you need to. And this person, you know, I don't even want to get emotional, but she saw something in how we were able to coexist. And I think when you find someone that you really enjoy spending your day-to-day with and who you can really see some kind of future with, she felt like it was bigger than, you know, a child, and or not even bigger than a child, but that the child was an addition and, you know, not a subtraction to how we were going to live our lives. And I think that's probably the relationship that's buoyed me the most through the last 20 months is, or however many months it's been, is just, you know, having someone in my corner who's been super supportive. Like, she was making jokes about the situation before I was ready to make jokes about the situation.
So she's joking over here and you're taking it fucking personal.
She's telling people I baby trapped her. I'm like, that's not how a baby trap works. You know?
It's the reverse.
Yeah, it's the exact reverse. But
she's
she's super healthy in how she approaches things. She's very, you know, head on. And, you know, that's how I'm standing here today. Like, you know, having a support system is a really big part of getting through something like that. Because for me, it was I don't know the word to use. It was life altering for sure. It was shocking. It was shocking. It was shocking.
Shocking, confusing.
Oh, so confused.
All the emotions. Could be, you know what I mean?
I was taken aback.
As
the white people would say. I was taken aback.
I understand, and honestly, shout out to her. I have briefly talked to her about the situation, and it's because of her confidence in who she is that I really feel like she's able to continue to flourish. Because if she was not in the mental state of where she was, it's not easy. And she did tell me that she was like, she never really thought of herself as, you know, physically having her own child. And especially if you did contemplate, you were on the edge, you were teeter-tottering between having a child, you know, and she was very confident in not having her own.
She was open to adoption or surrogacy or whatever.
That's what she said, but she was like, I don't want to physically go through this, and shout out to her because physically it's a thing. It's a
know yourself. Know what you can do.
Good. That's what I'm talking about. Like, she really knows herself. She's really confident in it, and even like speaking to her about her past and her own situation, it makes sense why she's so okay with it, because she's like, this, I've seen this before, you know? And I was just like, good on you, girl. And I'm happy that you do have that, because when you don't, it's another layer.
I don't know where I'd be. To tell you the honest truth, and again, I do this interview with the knowledge that hopefully someday my daughter will see this interview. And I want her to know, you know, that even though I'm going to love her tremendously and be there for her at all times, it wasn't the easiest transition. Like, life comes at you in waves. And I think to be in a situation where you're having a child with someone who you don't have a traditional relationship with, right? So there isn't the regular negotiation process of, here's how we're going to go about with the, prenatal care. Here's how we're going to go about with the delivery. Here's how we're going to go about with the first months of life. There isn't that regular negotiation. And I know that mothers are very fierce beings, and they want to have a certain amount of control because life's uncontrollable. So you control what you can control. And when you're not with the father, he's kind of another variable that you're going to want to mitigate the amount they can mess with the situation.
Yeah.
And I'm pro-choice. I'm all for women having autonomy over their bodies, but it's a double-edged sword, because when you are pro-choice and for women, that means that you're leaving a large amount of power in their hands.
Yeah.
And so that left me feeling very disempowered,
Yeah.
very vulnerable, and for someone who's been so independent for most of their life,
And also a man.
And also a man, right?
That pride that men have.
Yeah, it leads you to really struggle with the reality of the situation. And I think I went through all of those struggles. And, shouts out to my sisters, because my one in Brooklyn and my one here, because they were really big supports. It's weird. You know what the weirdest part about it was?
What is it?
Was when everyone was congratulating you. Like, it's like, surreal.
Is it a congratulations?
Yeah. It's like, and the funny thing is, like, for my guys, like, my group of friends, everyone's a girl dad. And they all were girl dads years before me. And the joke was, my stuff didn't work because, I ain't got no use yet, right?
Yeah.
It ain't happened for me. So, like, everybody was super excited. And then a lot of people who know me, like, I work with kids a lot. Like, working with kids has always been my heart. And so people are like, oh, you're gonna be the best dad. You're gonna be this, like, right? And like, and I'm a huge Kobe fan. And
Oh my gosh.
And so it's like the whole girl dad phenomenon that kind of was birthed out of Kobe's relationship with Gigi and his other daughters. So people were really happy for me in that I was gonna have this experience, especially guys who have daughters and who have those kindred relationships.
Special. For sure.
Right. And I wasn't at the place where I could see that yet.
Yeah.
Right. I was still in the weeds.
Yeah, in the trenches, trying to figure shit out.
So it was surreal.
Wrap your mind around it,
Yeah, it was surreal to have those interactions when on the inside there's the fear, there's the self-loathing, there's the judgment, and you have to work through all the guilt. Yeah, and I had to work through all that. And again, shouts out to the women in my life because they were super supportive in getting me through that.
When I first found out that you had a child and figured it wasn't with your girlfriend, I really felt for her because I have been in that situation.
Yeah. I remember you guys talked about that. She talked to me about that.
Yeah. One of my relationships a few years ago, when I just moved to Detroit, I got into a relationship with a man that didn't even live in Detroit. He lived in Dallas. And months in, it was actually like February 16th, I found out that he was having a baby. So we had just like really got together in December, and he was having the baby, like found out that she was pregnant February. And one thing I do applaud him on is telling me that it was happening when he found out.
Yeah.
But he didn't, like, it was a lie. Everything was a lie. So essentially, like, he called me and was like, yo, my ex just told me that she's pregnant, blah, 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 blah. But he was scared, so he lied about when.
The timeline is very key. Trust me, from what I've been through, people will fine-tooth comb that timeline for any errors.
That's what I was doing. I was like, okay, what happened here? What day? What time? Like, how many months? How many weeks? Like, da-da-da-da. And he essentially, out the gate, lied that it was in October, and that was the same month that we had met, And so I was like, okay, I can be understanding with that. We just met.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything from you,
Yeah.
But eventually, continually asking questions, like he claims like, yeah, well, I saw the video. He got her to take a video of her taking like a plan B. She already had 2 kids. And she wasn't in good situations at all. And it was like, just take the plan B. I seen a video of her taking the plan B. So allegedly that happened. Cause I don't know, I feel like she might have spit it out or something like that.
Yeah,
like I don't know, she really maybe she hit it in her teeth or something.
I've done the research. Apparently, they're not. It's not foolproof.
Yeah, and
It's
so
not 100%.
Yeah, it's not, and especially like learning now that even weighing a certain amount of weight, like if you're over 180, apparently Plan B doesn't even work.
I didn't even know that.
And you're supposed to take multiples and shit like that. And it's like they don't say that.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a good amount of people, the population that is over 180, okay? I don't think she was though. She kind of scrawny. But but yeah, so that happened, and then you know, they were going back and forth about the like whole abortion, and I'm just like over here like, okay, but y'all are in Texas.
Yes.
The whole abortion thing.
Was this before Roe v. Wade was overturned?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like this was 2017. Yeah, 2017, February 20, 2017. But still, it's still Texas.
Yeah. So it's harder.
You can't get abortion there. He would have had to go to Oklahoma to be able to get it, right? So I'm like, yo, time's a ticking. Like there's only a certain, I think for Texas, you had to do it by like 8 weeks. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, okay, these weeks matter if it's actually going to happen. Like you need to talk to her and figure this things out instead of being super like upset about a situation that you did get into, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, one day we got into an argument and he was just like, yeah, like I have a JIT coming in October. JIT is apparently what they call kids in some of the United States, like Ohio. That's where he's from.
Some new slang for me. I'm East Coast all day, so I don't know that one.
Yeah, like, well, Ohio's kind of in the East Coast, you know, but like that's what they call it.
East Coast, though. That's like the Florida of the
Columbus,
East Coast.
Ohio. So they say JIT, and he was like, yeah, I got a JIT coming in October. And I was like, hold on.
Timelines.
If you said
it's a 12-month pregnancy
that y'all was together in October and now you're having a child in October, the math is not mathing, and I need you to freaking tell the truth. And so this was like April, and he finally told the truth or whatever. And I remember I was at a Chris Brown show. Like I was about to go to a Chris Brown concert, and I was going to fly out to go see him that same weekend. And I was like, I'm just going to see Chris Brown.
Yeah.
He was pissed at that because I was like joking. At the time I worked in radio, so I could like get backstage and shit. And like, you know,
a couple jabs.
Yeah. There's a couple Chris Brown lyrics that would, you know, throw a man off if you were.
Not unwarranted. Not unwarranted, I got to say, judging on the situation.
Yeah. And I ended up going out there, and that's when we had the whole conversation. And I told him, I'm like, okay, I'm here for now. I don't know how long. Yeah. You know? And especially because she wasn't mentally stable. Yeah. You know, she just wasn't that. She was a little cray.
Oh, no.
And it was like,
Every man's fear.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like, we ended up staying together until December of that year. But that whole time was so freaking trying, you know? It was drama after drama. The baby ended up coming the beginning of October. That was a whole lot because he was lying about staying at her house, and he ended up bringing her to the house, and she stayed there for a few weeks. And yeah, he did not set boundaries at all, you know?
Yeah, that's a huge one, especially if you have a partner. I mean, my girlfriend was really, like, I'm not a person who ever really practiced boundaries. My friends are my family. So I wasn't, and I was never really in, like, you know, monogamous relationships. So boundaries weren't really integral part of my lifestyle. Like any homegirl or homeboy could sleep over at my crib, open door policy.
You're like vibes.
Yeah, it's
whatever
all vibes.
You need, like vibes.
But once, you know, a significant other and a child get introduced into your life dynamic, boundaries are so key. And I think, you know, she was really good with that. I think for young women too, boundaries are very important simply because of the threats they face when it comes to the dating scene and male friends who try to blur those boundaries and, you know, play both sides of the fence at times. I think women are probably a little bit further along in the ability to structure their lives. And for a guy like me, I was not. So I think, but to your point, like, boundaries are super key when kids get involved.
Yeah, boundaries weren't there because I'm like, how are you doing this and not telling me? And then, like, your mom is telling me, you know?
Yeah.
Because, well, yeah, so much stuff mom was telling me stuff. The girl ended up eventually telling me stuff, his ex. She was very like...
Now, she was mentally unstable, so could you trust that?
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a lot of it, especially when it was even like, okay, I already knew about the things that she had done from both his mom and him, like the wild stuff, you know, driving through the apartment garage door and like
Yeesh.
stabbing him. And
What?
Like, it was really...
God,
I don't ever want to say like a woman is crazy. I understand, especially when you're going through pregnancy and like
hormones.
Certain relationships can make you crazy, but
yeah, there's two sides
like,
to every story.
Girl, and especially her relationship that she had with her children. Like, she didn't even have custody of her children.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that would lead you to draw certain conclusions.
Yeah. So I had said to him, I'm like, yo, you need to have a paternity test too. Cause, you know, when we were together, she smashed his, window of his car, like the windshield of his brand new Jaguar that he had just bought. She took a rock and smashed it. Literally only had it for weeks. That's the level of like...
Thank God that ain't my story, man.
She was going through. So it was really, really hard. And then eventually
I feel for him.
I kind of checked out by September, you know?
Yeah. It's
I was
a lot.
like, I'm trying, but
that's a
I'm
lot
not trying
to take on
anymore.
When
yeah,
it's not your responsibility.
It wasn't. It was, and it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
You know, it was like your fault. And by December, it was around Christmas time, and she had DM'd me, and she was like, "Stop playing on my phone. You keep texting me and calling me, and you're calling my baby ugly, and like you don't understand what he was doing, and and he's been lying to you, like all of this stuff." And I'm like, girl, this isn't me, because I was the only one that was okay in the relationship. Like, even his mom wasn't really feeling it because she hated the girl so much. She was just like, that's not my grandbaby. Meanwhile, it's her only son. So it's going to be like pretty much her only child that she may, like grandchild that she may ever had. And she was just like, yeah, that's not my grandson. Like, the boy was delivered. She didn't go. I text her on the delivery day, and I was talking to her, and she was like, did you see a picture of him? He's ugly. This was the mom.
That's cold. That's ice cold.
Yeah, it was really, really rocky time. But me, I'm over here like, okay, like this could work. It's okay. It's like a blessing. This is your grandchild.
You're a ride or die.
I was really trying because I also grew up with my mom who accepted a lot of children, like her partners who had children. And she was so nice to them, you know? And so I was just like, okay, like this is possible. I've seen things work out in terms of like the children dynamic of my mom being, you know, an additional mom to their children. So I tried to like be optimistic, you know, like this is what it is. We have to deal with it. So I felt like I was the biggest person of everything because, you know, homeboys over here, like, I'm going to run up on her brother's house and shoot him.
Jesus.
Like, it is Texas,
it's a movie,
you.
yeah. You can be armed. Arms is deep in Texas. That ain't Ontario. Those aren't our laws.
It was so much drama. And for her to be like, yeah, you're calling my baby ugly and this, I just felt so hurt. You know, when he was born, I bought him a bunch of stuff. Yeah. I had this thing of buying like a lot of my friends' kids their first pair of Jordans.
Okay.
Did that, bought him stuff. Christmas time, I sent a box from Detroit of like all these toys and stuff to his dad's house for him and stuff. And it's like, if I really thought that, you know, your child was ugly or like I hated him or resentful, why would I do that? Like, I'm making an effort to do it. So yeah, she was like, contact me. And so I asked him. Again, I was kind of over the whole situation, and I told him what happened, and I was just like, she told me to call her. And he was like, okay. He's like, do it if you want to. And I was like,
that's a good sign, I guess.
Not really, because he figured that. I think that he figured that I wasn't going to do it, you know?
Oh, so he figured you were on your way out.
He's going to try to, like, call my bluff.
Okay.
You know, like, oh, you're not actually going to do it. I did it. 2 hours of her just going on and on and on and, like...
Good on you for listening to that.
All these things, but I actually recorded her because I know how she is and I know how he is And I knew that she was going to go back to him and say something that wasn't true. And then he was going to come at me and like snap at me. And that's exactly what happened. And I was like, yo, I got the proof. I'm going to send you the video. Like, I've got it.
And that's a dynamic you didn't even need to be in.
Not at all.
But that's a life lesson.
It is. Honestly, it was something that I went through. I didn't have to go through, but I went through and I learned some stuff. Thankfully, after that conversation, I hung up and I didn't talk to him. And then he reached out to me eventually closer to my birthday or on my birthday, which is like 2 weeks later. And actually maybe even 3 weeks. I don't even know if he hit me up on my birthday or not, other than like just a happy birthday, but nothing real. I went to this thing called MLK ski weekends that ended up being in Blue Mountain that no Toronto people ever fucking know about. A bunch of Americans used to come to Blue Mountain to do a ski trip, and it was so lit. Like, just partying all weekend.
We need some of that. We need
we need it back.
Yeah, you bring that back.
Yeah, they shut it.
We
like
need
they
a Dudley Law ski weekend or something. Canadian heroes to get celebrated out here.
No, like they just didn't market. Like Toronto, all over the states would come. Toronto, Texas, New York, Atlanta. There were so many people that would come here, and they organized it. And it was just a bunch of Black people at Blue Mountain having pool parties, having karaoke days, having all this shit. It was so lit. I went a couple of times. Being that I was in Detroit, I went with the people that started it. And I just remember him hitting me up that day and said some shit about how some homegirl of his from Ohio saw me out there and said that I was like acting out, and it was a lingerie party. Like, it was a lingerie PJ party, whatever. So
none of your business.
Yeah.
Not your problem.
And I remember I snapped. I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the relationship was over, and I'm grateful, you know?
Yeah.
And shit happened, but I don't think that was a situation that I would have even been able to handle long term, just because of how immature she was and how like not mentally stable she was. It wouldn't have been great. But to say all that, like, I know from my situation how hard it is to even be told that the person you love is having a baby that's not with you, and dealing with the whole boundary thing and trying to co-parent and all that shit. Like, it could be fucking tough. So shout out to your girl for being able to, like, you know, get this far and being so like normal about it.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with her strength as a person and my ability to respect her as a person and never want to put her in a compromising position. I think I waited so long to get into a relationship that at the point in my life when I did decide that this is what I'm going to do, I was pretty deliberate. Like, when I make a decision, for the most part, I do take it seriously.
Yep.
And so I know that I wouldn't want her to look back on the time that she had spent with me and felt disrespected or felt like I was out there just acting the fool and not really being sincere in my intentions. Like, I'm a person who's been hurt in my life. Like, a lot of things have happened to me that, you know, I wish didn't. And it was because the people who were in positions of power in my life weren't really sincere about the responsibilities that were thrust upon them. So whenever I'm put in a position of power in someone else's life, I really don't want to betray that trust. So when I said that was my girl, that was my girl. And so I make sure to keep in mind that this person is someone who's entrusted me with their emotions and who's brought me into their life and who improves my life. So I gotta treat that with kid-safe gloves, right? And at the same time, the tough balance is also recognizing that, okay, at the same time, there's a child out there, and that kid needs you 100%, just like your parent needs you 100%.
Yeah.
So how do you structure a life where everybody gets what they need?
Yeah.
And, you know, is it going to be perfect all the time?
Absolutely not.
It's not, you know. But is it worth fighting for? I think I found people that are worth fighting for. And, you know, I would rather not give myself everything I need to make sure that everyone else has what they need. And I think that's probably the biggest piece of growth that I'll have to go through as a parent. And I think that's probably what parents do for the most part, right?
Nothing's perfect. Even in the most perfect situation, it's not perfect. And we all have to, like, kind of grow through things.
Yeah, and a lot of it is sacrifice. I don't think sacrifice is something that we're very comfortable with in our generation. I think we're a generation that's really about instant gratification and ego and
kind of selfish.
Yeah. I'll be the first to admit it because that was my personal experience.
Yeah.
Like I was a very selfish person. I lived by myself. I did what I want, when I want, smoke when I want, drink when I want, like all that stuff. And so to grow and now be someone who is responsible to my partner, responsible to my child, responsible to my co-parent, it's a huge transition.
It is.
It's a 180.
I feel like that too with me, even being in a house full of people now.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to, for a good amount of my 20s, just living on my own, you know? The first time I ever moved out of the house, well, first of all, it was always me and my mom. Then my sister's dad came into the picture for a brief second, and then it was me, my mom, and my sister.
Yeah.
And there hasn't really been like a huge, male presence or anything like that. And it wasn't really a full house, just three of us. And then and because me and my sister have such a large age gap, I was like 22 when I first moved to DC. So that was my first, or even before that, I lived at York for a little bit. And then I went back home, and then I moved to DC, and then I came back home. But it's like I was in and out.
Yeah.
And then by 25, I moved on my own. January 25, like just after I turned 25, I moved on my own, and I've been on my own since. And so I'm not used to having multiple people in my house.
Busy.
And now it's like I got pregnant, and I was like, okay, like how is this going to work, right? If we're going to be able to like have the support of having two parents, like I feel like we need to live together. But me and Ezra living together means that it's me, Ezra Nola, and his 8-year-old daughter, who was 6 at the time. And then that his brother could live with us too.
Oh, man.
And his brother has a child that's only 6 months older than Nola. So on weekends, it gets fucking crazy. Both, like, all 3 kids
Royal
are there.
Rumble up in that piece.
And then there's 3 parents, 2 guys. I'm the only, like, woman in the house. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's been one of my biggest struggles through all of this, is being able to be comfortable in my house and trying to let go of what I'm used to having as a house.
Yeah.
And accepting the chaos
Yeah.
of what it is.
Blood slide and how that affects the kid. That's a whole other set of snakes that I can't even imagine when it comes to those conversations. You know, what kind of internal strength I'm going to need to have in order to, walk out of those situations. The big one for me right now is just time. Mm-hmm. It's just, my daughter lives in a different city, not too far away, but I don't have a job that's a traditional job. I don't work 9 to 5. My evenings are mine. I work an hour maybe in the morning and then the whole evening. And so finding time to then get out there and spend enough time with her and really get her acclimated to my scent and my look and all the things that kids need to do with their parents. That's my thing right now, is how do I make sure, I try to get up there as much as I can, but there's only so much you can do. You can only be so many places.
Yeah,
there's all these little things that come with raising children, and
then you don't necessarily think about going into the situation.
No, you don't. Well, I did, but again, it's tricky, man. Like for me, I'm very much a planner. Like as freewheeling and independent as I was, I only had those luxuries because I was really diligent in setting up my lifestyle and doing the work beforehand. Yeah. I'm a big believer in setting situations up for your success. And not everybody's like that. And I think that's, one of the concessions you have to make when you have a co-parent. Like I think a lot of the work is done beforehand.
I believe that.
Right? And then you find yourself and you put yourself in a situation where you can succeed. And now I find myself dealing with things as they come. And you can top me off too. We're getting busy. Yeah. Right? And I think that's part. Woo!
Shit, sorry.
It's all good.
It's my left hand. Not really strong with the
hit
left
me with
hand.
the Ginobili. You hit me with the Ginobili.
Yeah, I tried.
But I think that's, again, much to the point that you were making about styles, Right? There's an old saying in boxing: styles make fights. Like two varying styles make for an interesting fight, but two varying styles when it comes to parenting,
It's hard.
creates a very different dynamic.
Even with like lifestyle or mental or religious,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Or vaccines or freaking sleeping times. Like, there's all these
I
conversations.
heard you've
gotta
had had a hard time with the vaccine situation.
Again, different styles and different approaches
strokes
to
for
life.
different folks.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I think that's been a hard one for me. And again, I don't think anyone's going into the situation thinking they're doing harm to their child. I think everyone's going in there with the intent to do right. It's just that you're not coming from the same place.
Yeah. Me and Ezra's lives are different, like our childhoods. You know, I grew up with a one-parent home. He grew up with a two-parent home. He grew up with very religious children. He's pretty much a PK, like pastor's child.
What's a PK? I don't know that one.
Pastor's kid.
Oh, okay. Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
PKs, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's Rastafarian. So
That's still like a whole different,
Yeah.
Again, he's not, you know, he was in Brooklyn. So.
Yeah. So I got a little space from that.
Yeah, and like they're super Jamaican. He didn't grow up with celebrating Christmas. He didn't grow up with celebrating Halloween. Like that's a big no, you know?
Devil
like,
worship.
Yeah. They're 7-day Baptists. So on Saturday, they can't do anything, you know, from Friday sunset to Saturday
That's
sunset.
their Sabbath.
They can't do anything. And I
technology.
I didn't grow up in that, you know. He never he played sports when he got a little bit older, but he wasn't able to play like team sports, you know, recreational sports.
Does he still observe all this?
No, not really.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He like his parents still will have like church kind of at their house, and he'll go sometimes, but he's not as strict. He does try to not work on Saturdays, and try to push his jobs to like Sunday. So he's not as much, but he doesn't. Now that he's older, he'll go to Halloween parties, but he doesn't want his kids to do it. And that's been an issue because I feel like that's contradictory. How do you get to do it, but they wouldn't get to do it, you know?
Yeah, you got to live your principles.
And especially because it's like, oh, he'll be like, like, my kids, they don't know what the difference between good and evil is type vibes. And I'm like, okay, so you teach them. Like, I grew up celebrating Halloween, but I'm not celebrating the fucking devil, and I'm not celebrating, like, evil shit. I'm doing it because, like, imagination, being able to creatively express myself in different ways, dress up as different, like, costumes, have fun, and eat a bunch of candy.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You know? And then even with Christmas, like, he's been participating with my family, but it's, like, the Santa thing now, you know? He's like, I'm not lying to my child. And I'm like,
oh, man, how am I going to manage that one?
Yeah, like.
A big white man's going to break into your house and leave you nice gifts. I teach my kids to be afraid of.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like, I don't know. I'm inviting them into the house. You're going to take the TV, not leave you one.
Luckily, like, I grew up with a white mom. So, like, white people, I mean, my mom, she be fucking with the black people.
Your mom's good people,
so,
man. I work with your mom. That's my homegirl right
she
there.
She quit.
When?
Friday's her last day.
I was going to say, I just saw her at the last home game.
No. Friday's her last day.
Oh, the end of an era.
So she's doing Monday and Friday. So if you see her.
All right, I'm going to hail her up tomorrow night.
Okay, then. There you go.
Golly. Okay,
Yeah.
sixth floor. Whenever I turn that corner, she's right there waiting on me.
26 years.
God damn. She getting the package? She getting packaged out?
Absolutely not, because it's a part-time job.
Okay.
The packages I'm paying her for whatever income that she.
Oh, she's moving into full-time babysitting.
Well, she's already taken over, you know, and she's just like stressed and having to come downtown. It just doesn't match.
Yeah.
You know what she wants to do anymore.
Yeah.
So I told her, I'm like, if you want to quit, it's okay. Like, I'll just pay you.
Shoot, I hope my daughter pays me to babysit when I'm older. Like, yeah, I made the right choice. This is a good look for me.
But anyways, in regards to co-parenting or even parenting in general, and you guys aren't on the same page, it is a lot that you have to think for. And then on top of that, Ezra doesn't eat pork.
Oh, I love bacon.
I love bacon too.
Oh my God.
And
I mean, I eat pork, but I love bacon.
Pepperoni
yeah.
pizza. I don't eat ham or whatever like that. I don't like it. And he doesn't. And no, it's so crazy is that Nola loves it.
Does he know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried to not, but she'd see that charcuterie board and she would go ham on the ham.
I just don't know what breakfast is without bacon, man. You need eggs and
Loves
bacon.
bacon.
It's a combo.
My mom told me how one day my sister cooked them breakfast or whatever, and Nola literally stole the bacon off of my mom's plate.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, wait, where did my bacon go, Nola? And she's just there sitting, eating it.
Yeah, like a chocolate bar.
She's like, I took it.
Like a salty chocolate bar. It's the best
Yes.
stuff.
And he just stares now, and he's like, you're really eating pig.
What you got to do is you got to convert him.
Yeah.
Get him into the haram side of things.
You know?
Come join the dark side.
I'm like,
Ez,
it's worth it.
Come join the dark side, baby, man. The pork is good over here.
There's so many things, even with the ears pierced. I was like, I want her.
What's this one?
He's like, no, like she can't get her ears pierced. She has to be old enough to like decide on her own. And I'm like,
So it's like grooming? Technically, is it?
I don't know.
I'm confused. Yeah, I mean, the
know.
world's changed so much, especially for our generation. Like the rate of change
Yeah.
Outpaces any generation prior, I think. Because, I mean, we've liberated so many groups. We've brought so many people into the fold. You gotta second guess a lot of the things that we grew up doing. So it's hard, man. And for me, I'm pretty liberal. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very open-minded, and not everybody is as open-minded. And so how do you bring a child into the world? Because, like, you think about it, the world that we grew up in, even though we probably weren't a nuclear family, the world that was shared in the media, in the public space, was that thought process of a nuclear family, of shared ideals. And we've splintered so far from that. And so now you're bringing up your kid, and you have two people who are responsible for this one individual who are diametrically opposed when it comes to most subjects. How do you negotiate that down? How do you find common ground?
Yeah.
That's going to be a big one for me as I move forward.
No, it's a lot,
Yeah.
to go through and try to process. And I will say that I'm not a good partner in terms of, hearing you out and trying to like, whatever. Because I'm letting her eat pork.
Yeah.
I said, whatever. You're saying that she could choose. I didn't get her ears pierced as much as I wanted to,
Yeah.
She hasn't got them yet. I'm like, okay, we didn't get her ears pierced. I'm going to let her eat pork. And if she doesn't want to she decides that she doesn't want to eat pork, then she could decide when she's old enough. But
you
right
have the
now,
self-awareness too.
she's throwing down the pork, okay? And she is going to dress up and, do the Halloween thing. She's not going to dress up as something evil. She dressed up as Peppa Pig this year because that's her favorite thing right now. Christmas, I'm like, she's going to celebrate Christmas. Does she necessarily need to believe in Santa? I'm fine with that. But she's going to get presents.
Tree,
because
the whole nine.
It matters to my mom. It matters to my nanny. They're here, like, I don't know how long my nanny's going to live, right? And like, that really matters to her. And she wants to do all that stuff. So I'm not going to deprive her from it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's definitely a lot. And it kind of plays on your mental. And that's one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, because I feel as if for as long as I've known you, you've been very vocal on mental health in general.
Yeah.
And I know that you have dealt with your own issues throughout the years. And especially one thing that we kind of bonded on as becoming parents is that I went through postpartum depression, but you also went through
Guys
the
can do it too.
same. And I learned that there's something called postnatal depression for men.
Yeah.
They can,
The statistics are crazy. I did some research, and right now they're saying it's anywhere between 10 to 12% of men experience postnatal depression. But I really believe that that's significantly underreported because guys just don't go to the doctor.
They don't talk about it.
And
They're not aware either.
Yeah, and oftentimes we wouldn't tell the truth, right? It's hard to even at least say that you're struggling or suffering because there's the idea of the strong male, right? There's that constant patriarchy creeping into your mentality that you need to be the breadwinner and the rock for your family. I mean, it's a little bit easier for me to address because I've suffered from depression for most of my life since my childhood because of how
Same.
wild my childhood was. And so my mental health was something that I became really aware of and had to manage. And then, you know, from childhood depression with my anxiety issues to then working in media and content and being on TV from a young age in my early 20s, that played on my ego and my identity a lot. And then to now become a father in the way that I did really rattled the cage in terms of my self-identity and my ego. And I struggled. I can say that the first year, I was in a dark place. I was not in a place. I was not the same man I was before. I'm still every day fighting to become. I'm never going to be the same person. But
absolutely not, because there's a huge addition to your life.
Yeah. But I definitely want my daughter to know certain aspects of me that existed before that maybe I'm not as in tune with right now that I can get back in tune with.
Yeah.
But I think having a child, especially, again, I understand that postnatal depression happens to all men, and I don't understand the trappings of it for everyone, but I can understand it from where I'm coming from. And a lot of it has to do with the disappointment around how it went about, the lack of power I felt in choosing the scenario and having no voice in the situation, really feeling like I was being put on the sidelines. And it was really disempowering, and it made me feel really small and like I no longer had any control or say. And then to project that out into the future and to look at, now I have this child, and, you know, you really got to respect the mother's rights. And, you know, myself and the mother aren't seeing eye to eye on things. Well, what kind of impact am I going to be able to have in this child's life? What position am I really in here? And so I think that played on my ego, my sense of self, my ability to feel confident in who I was as a man, as a presenter, as a partner, as an athlete playing ball. You know, like my jump shot started to get wonky for a bit, right? Like it just seeped
Not the jump shot.
You know what I'm saying? Not the jump shot, but it seeped into everything, the way I walked. And so it's a long road back to find who you are, knowing that a lot of your self-confidence is based on power and control, right? Yeah. And when some of that is taken away, you've really got to reinvest your self-confidence in other things, right? And ground yourself in new things. And I'm finding that. I'm finding new ways to be Akil, new ways to find strength in my identity. Like my being a father is going to be a big part of it. I'm going to have to get a lot of my self-confidence from how I manage my co-parenting relationship, right?
Yes.
The fact that I can pull this off is something I'm going to have to pull strength from. But it's been a tough one, and I can only imagine from the mother's side how difficult it is, because like my body didn't change. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have to deal with that side of the coin. It's mostly my internal thought process and how I view myself, and maybe how some other people view me. Yeah. But it's not as apparent as what could happen to the feminine.
Yeah, especially like I know for me, I have dealt with depression for a while. I think I was like formally diagnosed at 20, so that's been 13 years. Before that, I probably was dealing with depression because my mom always said that I was miserable, you know.
A little melancholy.
Yeah, like that's what it was. Like my family, her side would say that I was like, you know, miserable and stuff like that, and it probably had to do with depression that we just weren't diagnosing. So I knew going into my pregnancy, and I think that was one of the things that I was the most worried about, was like, am I going to be super depressed knowing that these hormones are going to attack me, you know?
Yeah.
And I had got on medication in 2020 because it was a really freaking rough year between like losing the job, being locked up, thinking my future was like ruined, having a couple, you know, one specific bad situation, like situationship. And so I started getting back on medication. It wasn't the first time I was on medication. And when I got pregnant, I was still on it. And my doctor was like, you know what? It's better for you to stay. Because
stay on it. Okay.
Because she was like, the amount of like effects that it might have on the child is way less than what it could like the depression could do to you as a mother. And if we don't take care of you as a mother, then your baby is not going to be okay. They're like, the most being on this specific medication, I think it was only sertraline at the time. They said that when she's born, she might be like a little foggy, whatever, a little cranky, and then she'll be fine after a couple of days. Because it's like that couple of days that they might be going through like withdrawal. But to be honest, she was fine, you know? And my pregnancy as a whole, I wasn't really depressed. It was just afterwards.
Yeah.
It was like everything was coming at me left, right, center. I didn't feel myself. I didn't know how to manage like having this new schedule with waking up regularly throughout the night. Like I like my sleep, you know? And I wasn't having that.
Yeah, you gotta have compassion for mothers. Like I could, as a dad, like there's only so much that's asked of me, so I really step back when women talk about the requirements of early childcare.
But then also being a dad that's not in the house when it happens. You know, you're a co-parent. You get the child on whatever assigned days that you guys have, and then that's it. But when you're like actually there and you have to deal with the shit, especially if you're by yourself, I couldn't even imagine. I wasn't by myself, but I still had a relationship that was like a lot, you know. I was hating everything. I had just moved into the house with everybody, so I was dealing with that, and I went through it. And so they say with postpartum depression, postnatal depression, for both moms and dads, that it usually lasts between like up to 6 months max, you know, and anything after that is like just real life.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah. If your baby blues haven't gone, baby blues is technically until like 6 weeks. If your baby blues hasn't passed, and you know you might be in some postpartum depression, but realistically, I've talked to so many moms who said they don't feel right until 2 years in, and I'm just like, why don't we know that? Yeah, you know, because people think that they're really like crazy or that there's something wrong, or they give up on relationships. When I think back to, again, my mom's relationships with my dad and my sister dad, they only last until 2 years postpartum. And it's like, what if that had a factor in it, you know? Yeah. Because she wasn't thinking right, or maybe they were even going through.
That's true. That's mentally wild. Yeah, that is true. Because the dude's dealing with someone who may not be at their best and thinking this is what it's going to be like forever. That's crazy.
And not even knowing how to deal with it either. Yeah. I know that Ezra has never faced any type of real depression, you know? So he doesn't know how to handle this.
Yeah. And everyone's got a different makeup, right? Everyone's got a different threshold or pain tolerance or a level of discomfort that they can live with. That's one thing that's really tricky to me is I think if I had gotten, you know, someone pregnant when I was younger, it may have been an easier transition simply because my life was so much more dramatic when I was in my early 20s. I was dealing with a lot of things. I didn't become a Canadian until I was 25. I was working illegally. I had so many different situations that I was dealing with where my life was a lot more volatile. Then I went through this super calm, serene period of stability. And then to shake that up was like, whoa, what's happening here?
I thought it was good.
Yeah, right?
You were sitting there meditating all the time.
Yeah. I was in my little Zen bubble.
Instagram.
Yeah. I was, honestly. I was in my little, you know, I was getting my white girl on, right? I was just living my best life. And then to have this volatility thrown in there really threw me for a loop. But I can see that because I think up until 6 months after she was born, it seemed like a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the discomfort in my gut, a lot of the pain in my heart subsided, and it settled into like what people call adulting. Yeah. Like, you know, like, oh, this is what adulting feels like. This is, you know, the responsibilities of a grown person in late stage capitalist society, the pressures of being an adult, the taxes, the monthly bills, the, you know, the housing crisis, right?
It's a big crisis.
Like, these are things that aren't specific to the pregnancy or the child. These are things that are specific to living in a large capitalist society, right? So it's no longer the postnatal depression to a certain extent. But again, at the same time, I can only imagine what the experience was like for a mother because I can only speak from my own experiences, and they're very specific. Like the workload that's expected of me is, it pales in comparison to what a mother's expected. But, at the same time, I'm not going to disrespect my own emotions, feelings, and experience, know that they're real for me. So it's tricky.
So what are some things, since you can acknowledge that you've been dealing with depression and I'm sure some type of anxiety?
Oh, yeah. Lots of anxiety.
Yeah.
Lots of anxiety.
Anxiety
Gut
is like
rot.
a given, Yeah.
Gut rot. Straight up gut rot.
So how are you able to prioritize like self-care within those moments while still like parenting? I guess it's a little bit different because you do get time alone.
It's definitely different. I don't have the same pressures as someone who is an everyday parent, but I think the things that have helped me the most are, luckily, and again, not everyone has this, is a partner who's really good at communicating. I think for men, and for especially Black men, the patriarchy has done a number on us in terms of our inability to communicate when we feel weak, when we feel vulnerable. I'm still not capable of speaking like that. Like, even doing all this is a big leap for me in opening up. It's the first time I'm going to do it publicly, but my girl does a really good job of forcing me to state how I'm feeling
and just own it.
Own it, right? Verbalize it, vocalize it, and say it out loud so that you even know you said it. Because sometimes you can be thinking things, but saying it out loud is a whole different dynamic. And then I think future projection is a real big problem for me, because I'm a big planner. I'm someone who likes to set things up.
Too.
So I'm in a situation for success.
Yeah.
And I'll get caught up in 7 steps ahead. And, one thing you learn as a parent, just when I speak to other parents, I speak to yourself, is like, it's a day-to-day process. It's not next week and next month. It's right now, today.
Yeah.
Do you have what you need to cover the groceries? Is there milk in the cupboard?
Yeah.
Is the laundry clean? Has the floor been mopped? These are the in-the-moment responsibilities that should be taking up the majority of your mental capacity. And I think for me, it's hard. And because I'm not day-to-day with my kid, it's now like, I'm projecting forward, like, okay, I got child support, I got this, I got that. How do I make sure that everything is lined up? And then I kind of snowball and get overwhelmed because of my own thought process.
And then do you feel like you have to pull back and like end up like a recluse and like, I just want to not be around anybody? Because I
disappeared last year. No one saw me last year.
Yeah.
Last year I was gone. Like,
I don't think I saw you.
Yeah, I was gone. I can say that I'm a guy who was out and about.
Yes.
I was in these streets.
Yeah.
I grew up downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
If there was an event, I was
there.
either hosting or participating. Last year was the least I think anyone ever saw me. I just didn't have my self-confidence. I was projecting way too far out ahead. And I felt like a failure. I really did. I felt like I dropped the ball. I did something wrong. And I was going to be punished for it. And my child was going to be punished for it because of the dynamic that she was going to have to grow up and live in. And I think those are narratives that I've built. And a lot of that is based on the experience I had with my parents. And so it's my responsibility to change that narrative. So again, getting back to like speaking to my therapist and my girlfriend. Are 2 huge things. I did somatic therapy. Now, not everyone's in the financial position to do these things, but
what's that type of therapy?
So somatic therapy is basically, it's one of the best types of therapy I've ever done. I only did like 3 sessions because I like to think I'm a quick learner, and so I kind of stole what I could from a young lady by the name of Alicia. And so somatic therapy is, let's say there's something that really triggers you.
Yep.
So the belief in somatic therapy is your soma is your internal regulation system, fight, flight, freeze. Your internal regulation system should have the ability to calm you down. But if you are constantly feeling fear and anxiety, that means that it's not working. You are dysregulated. So the mechanisms that are inside your body aren't working properly. So what she did with me was she would introduce a concept that I'm uncomfortable with. So let's say the 10 on the list would be, of course, having a child and co-parenting.
Yep.
But a 4 on the list would be having to travel to see my child. So she would introduce the 4 and ask me where I'm experiencing the discomfort in my body. What does it feel like, sound like, taste like? If I were to give it a shape, give it a shape. And she would force me to sit with that thought and let it trigger my system.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would sit in silence, and she would wait for the level of anxiety, pain, discomfort to slowly start to subside. And what's happening there is your regulation system is kicking in, and it's starting to co-regulate and teach your system how to calm down. And so she did that with something that was a 4. So we I learned how my body calms down. Then the next week we do something that's a 5. And so it kind of gave my internal system an opportunity to get back online and regulate. But I was constantly thinking about the 10.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the muscle memory internally to regulate a 10.
Yeah.
So it's like going to the gym
Yeah.
every day and picking up the 150-pound
And it's
barbell
like, no,
and trying
can't
to
do
curl
that.
it.
Yeah.
And you don't have the muscles
Yeah.
or the technique
you
to curl that weight.
Yeah. You got to start at like 40.
So you got to start with the 40s. So that's basically what we were doing, was she was triggering me to the point where my system could handle it. So a guy cut you off on the highway. Let's think about that instead of thinking about you lost your job last week and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills. And so this learning how to regulate small things will kind of get your system back online. And then naturally, through your breath and through just holding your body in a certain way, you'll learn how to regulate larger and larger problems. So things like that were really the tools that I used. I mean, I'm not a finished product by any means,
We're never.
but I'm in a lot better place than I was.
Yeah. Yeah. You're able to be here and
Yeah.
like talk about your situation because you obviously like have expressed to me personally and then even during this episode that this is not something that you've been capable of talking about.
No, I thought I was going to cry. I'm glad I didn't. Although it's probably a good example for the young men out there that crying is cool and you shouldn't feel shame about it.
You got a little, you know.
There was you noticed.
I've seen.
You saw that.
Yeah,
oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
She noticed.
Should have kept poking the bear. Because so far, well, Ezra watered, right? Like he didn't actually cry, but for a few of the guests, the 2 women that I have so far, they've cried. So
Yeah.
I've gotten people at least watery-eyed.
young Oprah over here.
We said this the last episode.
Yeah.
I am destined to be the next Oprah, okay?
Yeah.
I was going to say that, though, I get triggered by a lot of things in my relationship and, like, my situation. And that has to do with my father. He wasn't present. He ended up, like, kind of being in and out. He wasn't like my sister's dad. My sister's dad left at 2 years and hasn't come back.
Okay.
Like she has not seen him or talked to him since she was 2. She's 22, you know? My dad was like in and out, tried to convince everybody. Like when I went to my grandma's funeral recently, people were like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you since you were young. You disappeared. And oh my gosh, one thing I know, your dad really wanted to see you.
Oh,
and
don't
I'm
you hate those ones?
And I'm like, to you, like allegedly he was really sad.
That's the story and you're corroborating it, but that ain't the truth.
It's a lot. But even with him finding a wife and getting married, I think I was around the age of 6. I met Ezra when he had a 5-year-old. And then like we get into that situation and it's, there's so many situation that's very similar.
Yeah, it's like history's repeating. Oh no.
It is. And there's so many different things that like trigger me, even with like the Santa shit. My dad told me when I was like 8 that Santa died because he crashed his sled into a tree and it was all over
thing is this?
the newspaper.
Why?
You know?
What's the motivation there?
He didn't want me to believe in it.
Okay,
and
all
it's
right.
like, and then it's like Ezra doesn't want his kids to believe in it, and that triggers me. And then it's like if Ezra, like my mom has been so great all my life and all my sister's life of just like giving us things, like not spoiling us, but making sure if we had a want, she'd make a way to get it, right? And then Ezra's just like, oh, you don't really need it. You know what I mean? And I'm not used to that. I'm used to like just
make it happen.
And it kind of makes me feel as if he's like my dad. Because my dad wasn't like that. So I think but even though he's not like my dad, he's very present in his like eldest life and he wants to be present in, you know, Nola's life and he wants to do all those things and he is a good dad, but there's just certain things that trigger me and it makes me feel and reminds me of the things that I went through when I was a kid. And I'm just so used to like the bad things that it's hard. And I feel like I might take it out on him sometimes, you know?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
he'll be like, oh, I don't get it. He doesn't get it. He just thinks that whatever. But it's a big freaking deal to me, you know? Because
We're all coming from our own traumas, man. That's the wild thing. And I think that's like, it's hard to have compassion for other people simply because you just don't know what color the shades they're wearing are. Like things that you see as not being threatening, they see as huge threats. There's fires. There's a fire in the kitchen, and you're like, "There's no fire. It's just
it's not that big of a deal." But
right?
me, it's like, it's a deal.
Yeah.
Like, why is this like this? This doesn't make sense. Like
what do you mean? There's pencil crayons on the floor? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, what are you talking about?
me, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I foresee the future of them picking it up and coloring on the walls.
Yeah.
And I see them getting it all in the very like carpet that we have, and you know, on the furniture.
You're talking about your experiences, things you've seen, things you've experienced, things that bothered you or bothered your mom or dad, or like they're all triggering in so many different ways. It's probably the greatest exercise of all time, parenting, like in terms of learning yourself. Like, not that I'm saying everyone needs to run out
parenting,
there and
but
have
even
kids.
also being in a relationship.
That too.
Because I'm sure those situations happen outside of having a child. Like,
yes,
you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Even just like living with another person that might not be exactly like you, which is how common is it for you to find someone that's exactly like you?
Yeah, so it's not
You know?
the 60s and 50s anymore. We're not growing up watching the same shows.
Yeah.
I picked the master class, though, because I got into my first serious relationship and had a baby at the same time.
You're like,
So-
we're going to learn it all today.
Yeah, give it
But
to me all now.
But I'm the same way because
Yeah.
I never like, I had relationships, but are they to the extent where we move in and we live together and our families are blended and there's all this new responsibility? I've never experienced that before, you know?
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
something that I've like really struggled with and trying, you know?
The beautiful struggle, and the struggle continues.
Yes, it does. And I'm sure there's going to be more things that pop up in the future. But we move, at least having had gone through therapy prior to like getting pregnant and better learning myself, I have more tools to help me like pull myself out of those dark places. Because, if I had to go through this without knowing shit, who knows if I would have made it, you know?
Yeah, imagine the kids we're going to end up raising.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's going to be
Sociopaths
trophy.
or some shit. I just hope.
some cool ones, though. Some real cool sociopaths.
Yeah, Nola's like little highlight reel is pretty popping so far.
Okay. I'm
she's
trying
done
to
some
raise
great
a little
things.
soccer star. If she's interested.
Soccer.
If she's interested.
Why soccer? Considering you're a basketball fanatic.
Basketball's really rough on the knees.
It is.
For young women, man. Like, I got a lot of female
Yeah.
friends who hooped, and it's really rough on the knees.
Yeah.
And
it is.
I don't know. I also I'm a Trinidadian, and that's like our sport,
True.
right?
It
Like, my
is.
dad would have loved if I played soccer.
Why didn't you?
The neighborhood I grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
everyone played basketball.
Mm.
We had a bunch of pros come from my neighborhood. I lived right beside Eastern Commerce growing up. So it was like I would be the one kid on the soccer field and everyone else was on the basketball court. So I was like, you know what?
I'll just do it.
I'm going to go where it's at.
And what's crazy is that like you didn't get the height to even like.
No, I did not get the height.
Continue.
I did not get the I would be the
So
perfect
you would have
size
been
for
perfect
soccer.
for soccer.
I would have dominated Messi. He's pinched to me.
So now
It's
you're
all
gonna
good.
get Isla.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
play
But
and
she ain't
live
gonna be
out
that
your
tall either.
dreams.
Trust me.
Yeah.
She ain't gonna be that tall.
What's so crazy is that like she has her face.
I'm
Do you
so
see it now or
thankful.
no?
Everyone points out the eyes and the mouth are definitely me.
Yeah, like this area.
Yeah. Which
I see it.
I'm sorry for her because like I got a big ass mouth, but I'm really super thankful that she's got an amazing disposition. Like, she is talkative and she's happy and she's
Nice.
independent.
Nice.
So like, you don't need to hover around her. She's gonna find her own
She's
way
gonna
about
figure
doing
it
things.
out.
So
And hopefully
there's
that
wins everywhere.
maintains
Yeah,
as she grows older.
yeah.
What are you going to tell her about mental health? Like, what are some things? Are you going to be open? Are you going to try to hide it? Are you going to share your mental health struggles? Like,
Yeah.
how are you going to support her if she should go through the same?
I got my rules for life, man. And one of the things that I really lean onto are honesty. I think, luckily for me, even though my dad wasn't around a lot, he was super honest about what was happening.
Yeah.
And I think I want to be the same way with my kids, because I think your life experiences are so rich and they're pretty much all you know. And you kind of base a lot of your actions on your life experiences. But if you just tell people what to do and not why you're making those decisions, like they're being robbed of the majority of the lesson.
Yeah.
So I can tell her, hey, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. But those are just tenets. They're just commandments. And without knowing the rationale for why they're important,
Yeah.
then they will eventually abandon those things. So if you can embed the rationale and the reasoning, and that's why being honest is so important. Like, I'm going to teach her breath work from a really young age. And why do we do breath work? Well, because, you know, when you aren't breathing,
the system.
you get overheated, you get dysregulated, you make bad decisions. Your dad did this one time because he wasn't breathing right or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to try and, you know, let them see the inside of the computer. I just don't want them typing. I want them to know how the CPU attaches to the motherboard and attaches to the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, I want to give them the keys to success.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do think sometimes about like mental health issues and if Nola's going to get it, if she's going to get that gene, you know?
Yeah.
Because like obviously I got it. I believe, well, I know my mom does, but she's never been like diagnosed about it, you know, and she's kind of avoided that. And then even my father, more recently, talking to my uncle a few years ago, I learned that my dad deals with depression a lot. And having had both his parents now pass, and the father, my grandfather passed in 2021, and then my grandmother just a couple of weeks ago, last month, and like I see it now, you know, and I ask him how it is and how he's doing, and he's like pulls away, and I realized that some of the things that he has gone through when raising me was because of mental health issues and him not getting the help and not being able to acknowledge what the fuck was going on. And I suffered from that. And so sometimes I wonder, like, yo, is Nola going to go through that too? And I think that's the thing that I feel most guilty about, is because if anything she's going to get other than like height and looks, she'll probably get some depression or anxiety. And I just feel so bad. And I just hope that like I'm able to guide her as much as possible, and I don't withhold the things that I do. And I also, at the same breath, don't want her, she knows that I take medication and she knows not to touch it, because I say, yo, it's mommy's medicine, and she'd be like, Nola's medicine, and then I give her vitamin D.
Yeah, get on that early, because there's not enough sun for us black people out here.
No, I give her vitamin D, and I kind of feel bad, like, oh, mommy always has to take medicine so that she's in like a good enough mood. There's so many things that I just keep replaying, but it's like, yo, this is my situation, and what am I gonna do? Am I gonna like hide it from her so she doesn't know and she doesn't understand anything, or am I gonna be open with her and explain what's going on so that she has a better understanding and knows that it's not her fault? Like, she didn't give this to me. This is what I was born into, and I'm trying to navigate, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the weird things about being a parent is you want to protect your children.
Yeah.
But the simple fact of the matter is you can't protect them to a certain extent. And how many times when we were kids did we run away from protections? When our parents tried to shield us from realities of life, and we ran towards the fire and towards the danger because we thought that, one, it probably wasn't as dangerous, and two, sometimes it was the situation that we needed to get into in order to learn more about life. I look at it as, well, the truth to me is life, as it's happening to you, will one day happen to them. Like, as I've run into a situation that was above my pay grade in terms of my skill sets to handle, sadly, they're going to do that too. You know, they're not going to pitch the perfect game. No. And our best bet is to give them our truth so that they can handle it. But one day they'll be sitting in this chair too, telling someone that I'm not prepared for the situation I'm getting into. And that's not a failure on us. Because if you look through the annals of history, through documented history, every generation has had that point in their life where they've met a problem that they weren't ready to solve. And that might be part of life, is getting to that point where you've got to grow beyond your limitations. And so we can't feel guilt that we can't solve all of our children's problems prior to. Now, this is me speaking as someone father of an 8-month-old, so like take it with a bag of salt, not just a grain. But that's what I'm getting a sense of, because I know my parents, you know, they sacrificed everything coming across the water from Trinidad to Toronto to make sure I had a blessed life. And here I am like, oh my God, I'm at this point, I'm at this crossroads where I don't know how I'm going to handle it. And this is not what they planned for me.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to do whatever I can for Isla. And I know that there's going to be a day, I think, where she's going to, you know, reach a point where she's like, I don't know how to handle this. And it's not a failure. It's just, that's life.
Things are going to be thrown at you no matter what.
For sure.
One thing, like, growing up, I never wanted a girl because of the height issue.
Yeah.
I grew up being made fun of from the jump, and I never knew how to handle it and stuff. And then I get pregnant with a girl whose dad is almost 6'5", and mom is almost 6'2", and it's like you're pretty destined to be tall.
Yeah.
But I've kind of changed the perspective. Instead of being like, oh, woe is me and woe is her, whatever, is that, yeah, she's going to be tall, but now she has a mom who went through it.
Yep.
And who has learned how to own it. And now I'm going to be able to pass that on to her and help her. Unlike my mom, who is 5'5", you know, maybe on a good day now. And she doesn't know how to navigate that, you know? Yeah. And especially even being her being a white woman, like there's so many things that I grew up that she didn't understand, but she tried to do the best. And at least now I'll have the tools to be able to like pass that on to Nola. And hopefully that helps with her mental health too. You know?
And shouts out to the WNBA, because those ladies are doing a great job normalizing tall women being empowered, being beautiful. Yeah. You know, the catwalk ahead of the game, the fashion. And
they're really just owning it.
Yeah, really owning their image and taking that height and using it as a weapon. Yeah. I think, you know, you probably didn't have that growing up, and she's going to have that and you. And, you know, that's a bonus twofold.
I hope that she continues to have the confidence that she has right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Throughout her life. It might be a little challenging sometimes as she goes through like her teens and she thinks she knows it all, but it's better than
I don't even want to think about that.
Like me, you know.
I don't want to think about the teenage years.
Yeah.
I come from that bad boys mentality where you just beat up the boyfriend at the door, you know. Yeah. So I'm worried.
I'm interested to see, you know, like even seeing Taya, who is her sister, my bonus baby, and her
bonus baby. I like that.
Yeah, her growing the last couple of years. She's 8 now. She was 5 when I met him, but before I like actually met her, she was just turned 6. She's changed so much. Yeah, she's got a little attitude and stuff, and I'm like, sometimes she does. She's still really sweet, but sometimes like she got a little. You know?
And the social media is a huge thing too.
To her.
Social media is big too.
Yeah.
Like they're exposed to so many different personalities.
Yeah. She's really into YouTube and like Roblox and stuff, which I don't know. But then also like her being raised by like a mom who is completely different to me. You know, we grew up in different situations. We have different views on stuff. And then her dad, and it's like, how she is raised wouldn't necessarily be the way. And so it's going to be interesting as she continues to grow older, but I know that it's probably going to be trying, and one day I'm going to get the door slammed in my face and like, one day, you're not my mom. You know what I mean?
It's coming. It's coming.
She already thinks of me as her roommate, so we'll see.
Oh man. Yeah. We're in for it now.
We are, but hey, we're here.
Yeah.
We can't really do, you know?
It's a gift. You just got to make the best of it and hope that you make some great human beings.
We move forward. We push through.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, man. This was cathartic. This was like therapy, but with alcohol.
Yes, I love that. That's what I've been trying to tell the people from the jump. Is like, this is going to be the like therapy session that you didn't even freaking know that you needed, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I want us to be able to share our stories and connect and like share them, so other people who may be watching who might go through that situation now or have gone or gonna go through can connect, or maybe even just understand better when they see another situation from the outside, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of people who've talked about the situation that I've been in, and I wish there were more resources and people that I could turn to. I remember when I was becoming a dad and I was looking for Black dad books. There are not a lot of Black dad books and ones that are relatable to our generation. And it was just sad that, you know, there are resources for different demographics and we are severely underserved. I don't know if I'm going to write a book, but I just know that you provided this platform for me. One, it was cathartic for me, but two, I know there's got to be some dude out there who's going through it right now, and hopefully he stumbles upon this podcast and says, okay, well, there's someone who can identify with what I'm experiencing.
You're still pushing through and you're still going to flourish, and I know you are going to be a great dad. You might not feel it necessarily right now. You're going to be a great dad, and your girl is going to be a great bonus mom to her, and she's going to live a happy and whole life, even though it might not be traditional.
Yeah. Fuck tradition.
Yeah. Who needs it? Who needs it? You know, the traditions are what? Christopher Columbus,
like we're burning all that
inviting?
down. Ryerson, Dundas, all that is over. It's
the
dead.
Tradition
gone.
that we thought was tradition really wasn't. Okay, so we're making new things or rewriting it. So yeah, I just want to really thank you for continually like being open and honest, and even though you might not have until this date, you are now, and you're going to continue to tell your story, and I won't be surprised if you write a book. And I'm just so proud of you. And with that being said, I would like to give you your flowers, especially because men don't always get flowers.
Hey,
and I adore you.
Whole bouquet.
Yeah, you get a whole bouquet.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Shoot, I want to bring you flowers. I wish I brought you some flowers. You deserve it too for what you're doing for all of us, to all the moms and all the dads out there providing this platform. Yeah. And just know that I'm always in your corner.
Of course.
Even if I'm mean to you about your golf swing, even if I'm incorrect, you know.
Yo, that day when you told me, I went out and I played the best game the next day.
I knew you were holding
played.
Feelings about that. I sensed it. I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that.
I'm like, FYI, my game was great the next day.
I probably saw the worst swing. I probably saw the outtake. So my bad. I take it back.
You saw
your
that
girl can
first.
golf.
I can't really golf, but like I'm getting better. You know.
Okay.
You saw that first video of me like literally the first swings that I've ever done.
First couple of hacks.
And I was that, and I haven't made like a new one. But yo, that day I went into the golf tournament. I was late. I hopped out the car, no warm up, nothing, and I hit it. And my coworker's like,
okay,
you play? And I was like, no.
All right, Tigress Woods.
Yeah.
I see you.
My brother-in-law says that I'm the only person that doesn't consistently play or consistently practice, and I'm getting better every time. The more I don't play, the more I get better.
I play once a year at Top Golf in Vegas during Summer League.
Yeah.
I'm moderately all right. Yeah. I'm not hitting the links anytime soon, though.
It's okay. Some things aren't meant for us.
All right. Well,
but
thank you.
No, thank you. Do you want to shout out anything for people to follow, hit you up?
Yeah, man. Nothing to follow yet, but know that it's coming. I mean, becoming a dad has been a true revelation for me, and I realize that social media has played such a big role in young people's lives. So I'm actually working on a series of workshops called Media Lit, working with young kids, getting them used to a couple of key things: the ability to recognize advertising online through the different social media apps, the ability to lateral read, which is to do research by sourcing your research from multiple websites, and how to create content, because that's going to be a huge skill, you know, using a ring light, a microphone, and a camera phone, and
it's like literally content. Literacy that you need to know.
Yeah, it's digital literacy in the modern age, and I think young people are going to need to know it. They're heavily targeted by companies, and I think we need to arm them with the skills to move forward. So that's kind of my pet project that I want to do for Isla.
Nice. I'd love to help you whenever I can.
I bet you.
I love the kids.
Let's go.
Not too many of them, but
I know. I think I'm good for now too.
Yeah.
We good.
The one that I have, and the bonus baby, and my nephew.
Yeah.
Like it's like we have twins because they're 6 months apart.
That's true.
This is the closest we're gonna have to twins, and so when I see them,
fortunate.
And I'm like, oh, it's kind of cute, but also I wouldn't want it all the time. So I'm kind of happy that he's only there like some days, you know what I mean? But it's really sweet when he comes in and he's like, Auntie.
Kids are cute when they're well behaved.
Yeah, and now this is a whole thing. Like, I guess because the brothers, Ezra and his brother, are not a year-ish? Not even a year apart, I guess. I don't know. My math might be wrong. No, yeah, a year and 5 months apart. and they're kind of like similar and stuff like that. And the kids are kind of getting confused. And I realize now that they're starting to say like daddy uncle and uncle daddy, which is really funny. But now they start doing that to me.
Auntie
and
mommy?
So like his name is Teddy, my nephew. He'll come and be like, auntie. And all of a sudden I'll say like something mommy, or somebody else will be like mama. And he's starting to call me mommy. And
you're
I'm
like, no.
I'm like, I'm not your mom. I'm your auntie. I'm not your mom. But then Nola will hear him say like auntie, or somebody else say like auntie. And now she started to call me auntie.
Like,
And I'm like, yo, I'm your mom. But then Teddy starts saying mommy. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like at this point, it's whatever.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Non-traditional parenting, labels aren't
they're gonna
as
be
important.
They're brother, sisters, cousins.
Yeah, exactly. I got a bunch of those. That's been happening for time.
That's definitely going to be this life, since like we're all under one house. I don't know how long that will be, but they're going to grow up as like siblings.
Well, they love
cool.
it. It's
Yeah.
good for them. They love it.
Absolutely, because she doesn't go to daycare, so
Yeah.
she got to get the kids somewhere,
Socialized.
Yeah. So I kind of had 3 kids, I guess now.
For now.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. I'll have 3
All right,
kids.
Supermom.
That's why I'm tapping out at
Yeah.
one actual kid.
Yeah. I feel you.
Hilarious. Anyways, y'all, thank you so much for watching. That is another amazing episode of Wait, I'm a Mom. If you're new to this, you've been missing out. Make sure you watch all the other episodes and stay locked in for the future ones. Hit us up on social, Wait, I'm a Mom podcast. If you have questions also, we really want to do this like whole listener, questions, advice, and I can ask my guests what their thoughts are. I'm really new to child, like being a mother, so I might not have the most advice, but we could always try to work that out. So DM us, hit us up, and of course, like and subscribe, comment on YouTube.
Get us boosted on the algorithm.
Yeah, and then on the podcast platforms, I need your ratings and I need those things, like rate it and then like comment and follow, because I am trying to be the best motherhood, parenthood podcast, and maybe even the best podcast of all time in Canada.
Let's
and
go.
I need your support. So yeah, thank you so much. Another episode is coming soon. Bye.
Deuces.
And we're done.
And we're
Clap
done.
again?
Woo.
One last clap. Cool.
Back end sync. Thank you for my flowers. Padgett's gonna love this.
Yep.
I'd be like, babe, I got you flowers. I got you flowers. I got you, babe.
I'm gonna DM her like
No.
live.
Let me live.
You're gonna be like,
And Maya, you too. Shut up. Don't say nothing. Love you. Okay, good.